budget now.
Let's get ready to rumble!
What a performance that was.
Beloved viewers, out there, it's time for Sportsville. My name is George Aluo. We are set to give you the best of sports on TV as we do here week in, week out. And I'm not alone in the studio. As usual, I have my colleague Tony Obani is here, and baby of the house, Oluchi Tobechuku, is equally here. It's been a week of football from Tuesday down to Wednesday, and not just in Nigeria, but even outside our shores. I talk about Rivers Angels, winning the Atio Cup Women's at the Yenagoa Stadium, Sansin Siasia Stadium in Yenagoa. And then Rangers doing the almost impossible, coming from 3 goals down with less than 10 minutes to go, beating Kano Pillars. That was one of the miracles of football. They call it a Saba miracle now. We'll take a look at that on the show today, and then we'll talk about Enyimba. They went to Casablanca, they couldn't conquer. They crashed out in the semi-final of the CAF Confederations Cup. But what would Lobby Stars and the Rangers be doing next season? We'll take a look at all that on the show today. As usual, it's a bumper package, but let's start with top news after this break. Don't go away. It is Sportsville.
Keep watching Sportsville.
All right, welcome back to the show. If you've just joined us, you've not really missed much. Let's start, as usual, with top news, where we take you around the world of sports. Let's start with what happened at the NOC investiture in Lagos. His Royal Majesty Oba Saheed Ademola Elegushi, the Kunsenla III, the youngest Oba in Lagos, has promised to change the face of Nigerian sportsmen and women when they go for international competitions. The young Oba said he would be supporting the Nigerian athletes to ensure that they do the country proud. That was after his investiture by the Nigerian Olympic Committee on Tuesday in Lagos. And talking about the NOC and investiture, NOC image maker is here. Talk about our own Tony Mokoma Obani. On that note, let me welcome him to Sportsville. Tony, welcome to Sportsville.
George, thank you so much. And talking about the investiture, it was a very massive one, George. You know, just for the very first time, the Nigerian Olympic Committee got it right, getting people who are enthusiastic about sports, getting people who are passionate, people who really want to invest, people who want to bring investors, and of course, bring people that can also alleviate the problems of Nigerian athletes. Like the Oba Ademola Saheed Kunsenla III said, that government cannot do it alone, that they were just ready to come in to help Nigerian athletes, so that they too can also enjoy the fruit of their labor at the same time, making podium appearances for Nigeria.
All right, kudos to the NOC there and the vesture of the Oba in Lagos. The second leg of the vesture will be coming up November 1. That will be in Abuja. More Nigerians will be honored by the Nigerian Olympic Committee. From the NOC activity, let's now take you to skating, where the Lagos State Roller Sports Association will hold its skating championship at the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos, from November 16 to 18. Activities at the 3-day championship will commence from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. The association says it's expecting a healthy competition for all the participants who will feature at this edition, where prizes and medals will be won. Oluchi skating. On that note, let me welcome you to Sportsville.
Thank you so much, George. It's a pleasure to be here once again. I must tell you that that is one sport that needs no introduction, especially in Lagos State. It's a popular one. A whole lot of kids and teenagers they like skating even for pleasure.
Yeah, but what I'm not happy with is doing it on the road where vehicles are flying. It's dangerous.
It is indeed dangerous, and I also know that Lagos State government, they frown at such. I could remember during Fashola's government, there are a whole lot of measures to discourage, all those young kids from doing that, holding vehicles from behind. They don't even know that you're following them when they apply brake and you just see yourself. But, especially at the National Stadium, we have so much space and you see them using it, training and doing all those. I think is a good opportunity for them now. When they take it to the competitive level, you will be rewarded when you do very well. I think it's a nice one coming from the association. Okay,
Lagos State Association, go and skate inside the National Stadium if you know how to skate. Don't skate on the main roads because it is dangerous. Okay, from skating now, let's take you to the Mind Games Premier Championship. A deadline of October 31 has been set for all qualified players to finish their registration ahead of the grand finale, which is actually on November 11. Names of players who have successfully completed the registration process for the grand final of the Mind Games Premier Championship will be released on October 29. That will be tomorrow. Yes, October 29. The name of all those that have registered will be released. Let's talk about Mind Game Premier Championship. From Mind Games, let's take you to Scrabble. Oyo State trials for the selection of players to represent the state at the forthcoming National Sports Festival has been put on hold, and this is as a result of the demise of Niyi Eson, who died some 2 days back. Very sad. The young man who has been in the forefront of development of Scrabble in Oyo State died at the age of 63. So a new date will be fixed for the Oyo trials. Talk about Scrabble. This was a competition actually that was almost removed, but at the end of the day, it's been included as part of the National Sports Festival. Tony.
May the soul of
Niyi
Eson, rest in peace. And I remember too that, like you said, he's one who's really been working hard, to ensure that more youths embrace, Scrabble. And indeed, there has been a scramble, all over Scrabble for it. I think that when they come up over the death of Niyi, I think the spirit of Niyi himself will definitely guide them well when they get to the National Sports Festival.
Amen. Unfortunately, this young man will be there when the National Sports Festival will be taking place, after making sure that Scrabble, he was one of those that actually pushed hard for Scrabble to be part of it. Well, may his soul rest in peace. From Scrabble now, let's talk about the Super Falcons. They've been drawn against perennial rivals South Africa, Kenya, and Zambia in Group B of the Women's Nations Cup. That will be coming up in Accra, Ghana. Actually, 2 cities, Accra and Cape Coast, will be hosting the group stages. Now you can see the pairings there. Nigeria is in Group B alongside South Africa and Zambia, and then Ghana, the hosts, are with Mali, Cameroon, and Algeria. That is the pairing for the Women's the Nations Cup that will be coming up next month in Ghana. Well, away from women football now, let's talk about the continent. Enyimba returned home from Morocco, where they went, saw, and failed to conquer. They lost 2-1. The defeat started actually in Aba when they lost at home by a long goal. They couldn't get into the finals of the CAF Confederations Cup, who were the only media outfit that welcomed them when they returned early Friday morning to receive the players and the technical crew. Enjoy the interview we had with them. We'll be back after it. It is Sportsville.
I want to thank God for everything. There is an adage that said that when you plan on a thing and it doesn't work out the way you plan it, doesn't mean that we are failure, but the system that failed. For us, we plan to reach final the Confederation Cup, but it doesn't work out the way we plan it. So we still thank God for the semi-final. It's not easy among all the teams. At least we qualified for the first third team. So I want to thank God for everything, for the players, the unity as we play as a team, then qualify to that stage.
Our lessons for us, we have gathered a lot of experience from this CAF Confederation Cup. I think both the management, the players, everybody, we have gathered a little experience, you understand? So we have to take it from there.
We lost the match and it was a very painful match, you understand? It's a match that we planned for to win, but it's a map of what is supposed to try our best, and our best was not enough.
For Rangers to come back from a 3-0 down Wow, it was fantastic. It was a great effort from their players, both the coach. I'll give them kudos. And I believe that Rangers have been a good side. So them going to the continent, I just wish them well and pray that they will back up every of their team to make sure that every department is equipped rightly. The motivation from the government comes too, because without motivation there's no football. So I wish them well. I know they are going to get to a better place.
The most important thing is to work hard, as normal thing in football. And the second thing, to believe in God and to believe in themselves. And this legacy that Enyimba have bring out, I know definitely they will look into it and they will work hard as well. And they too, they would like to get to this level and even more than this. And I wish them best of luck.
For Rangers, I think they merit it, and they've done well. And they've seen their team that always come back in the semi-final. I remember they came back from 2-0 and then they won against Canopila. So it's a determined team and team with courage. You know, in this Confederation Cup or maybe this Continental is a kind of, you have to have everything to be able to go far, because we're meeting different countries, different teams with different techniques, and there are a lot of things. So I wish them well, and I think they're going to do well. It's all about your preparation and reinforce the team, and they have to look at where they lack in, and they strengthen their strength, and they will make it. I'm sure. With good preparation, they are going to make it.
All right, welcome back to the show. That was exclusive to us, the return of Enyimba from the Battle of Casablanca, where they went, saw, and failed to conquer. 2-1 it ended, but they were not really humiliated. And you saw the players there saying what we need to do to get it right at the continent. I mean, by next year, it will now be Rangers and Lobby Stars flying Nigeria's flag in the continent. Lobby Stars will be playing in the CAF Champions League, and Rangers will be playing in the CAF Confederations Cup. We hope they will get it right next season, because Enyimba remains the only club that gets to a certain level when it comes to Africa. The last time we got to the semi-final was Sunshine Stars some 3 years back. Enyimba getting to the semi-final and not being able to win it. Tony?
I judge it was disheartening. We all watched the match against Raja Casablanca, but we knew there was a tough call for Enyimba. But of course, if you looked at their pedigree before, we had so much hope that at least they could just turn the table. But from everything that I saw, I think that Enyimba lost that game at home in Aba, because if they had really done the needful, getting a win, or drawing and all those things, I think they would have gone with a better spirit than what they did. The Enyimba that we knew, could have as well beaten Raja Casablanca, 2-0 here. And of course, perhaps losing 1-0 in the second leg wouldn't have mattered most. But
but Tony, look at beyond the players now. Look beyond the performance on the field. When Raja came here, Air Maroc was forced to fly to Port Harcourt. They normally come to Lagos. Air Maroc flew this team, Raja, to Port Harcourt. And then they got into about 4 days before the first leg game. They came with a band of supporters. But here, Enyimba went with just 18 players and 4 officials. Not even Ikechukwu Ezenwa could make it, because they were working on a tight budget. And when they returned home, straight from Murtala Mohammed, they entered the vehicle to Aba. I mean, it's just to show professionalism.
George, you are looking at the larger picture of what could be attributed to the loss of Enyimba. We've always known that Nigerians, it has always been the resilience of Nigerians, not just because they prepare professionally, when they play. All these things you are talking about, no club in Nigeria can charter an aircraft, for any event. The administration is not one that anybody is very proud of. It has always been that never say die spirit of the athletes that take them. Enyimba, we all saw Enyimba when Ojo Zokalo was in charge. The young man did so much because of the passion that he had for sports, and of course it paid off. But since then, since he left office, we see that Enyimba has been, Anyanseagu, the very few of them who are still there, have really been driving, just driving themselves without nothing, just because of the passion they have. There is absolutely nothing to support them. Like you said, It was a pity that Enyimba could just, despite the fact that they lost, that they could just come back to Nigeria and as well, begin to journey home, going through the road, exposing them to so many, dangers on the road, and of course all the potholes and people who have been tired flying all the way from Morocco. Just nobody can stand that. I don't think there is any European country that will be based in Nigeria and go through what Nigerian clubs are going through that will survive. So I think it is all left for our so-called administrators who do not, perhaps most of them do not even know what it means, for sports. It was still in the Enyimba, the same Abia, that one governor said, "Oh, football kaigeli."
Is it football that will eat? Okay, Oluchi, that brings us to this issue. Rangers have just won. They never see that spirit. We saw it in Asaba against Kano Pillars. But beyond that, when Rangers won, broke their 32-year jinx in the league, they were taking round Enugu by Gongoro. The next year, there was no money for them to play in the continent. Must government continue to run our football teams?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a stark reality that we are facing. Ownership structure has been one of the bane of developing not just sports but especially football in this country. Unfortunately, these clubs are bound by the mood of the governor. When a governor, sitting governor loves football, he gives his attention to that particular club, and then after he leaves or when he's preparing for election the following year, everything becomes a standstill. And not just in terms of finance. When you're talking about government clubs, there are a whole lot of policies and politics that goes from retention and hiring of the coaches to the players that are recruited to you know what I'm talking about. So at the end of the day, when you look at quality, in terms of personnel, is like you are shoving it by the wayside because a whole lot of things comes into place. Where are you from? If it's a state team and all those things, by the time you put all that into consideration, then when you are talking about a professional club, the way it is being run, you're talking about feeders team. How many of these players, even get promoted to the senior team at the end of the season? When you look at so much things, you find out that when you now eventually go to the continent, you can't just beat hard work. If you don't merit something, you don't deserve it at the end of the day.
Sorry, just to add, George, you asked and said, must we always depend on government?
Government clubs.
So what do we depend on government for? What is it that we depend on government and government has been doing for Nigerians?
Yeah, but government
and
has
we do George, no.
But the government has no business doing business, George, like they say. George, especially when it comes to football that can run itself.
George, absolutely, we know that football can stand on its own.
Exactly.
Football, there has to be sponsors. Some of these things have to be run transparently. There has to be credibility by those who run them, knowing that when you get money from sponsors, the money will be used for the purpose that
for which it was meant.
For which it's meant. And George, but sometimes government has a responsibility to its citizenry, and you begin to ask, in Nigeria, what is government doing? We do not have good roads. We talked about Enyimba players going back, and we know the pain, the struggle they are going to, the harrowing experiences they are going to.
So Tony, what you are saying is that if government must own this club, they should fund it well.
Government must always have a role to play. As in, we are talking about the citizens themselves. If you don't want to put money into sports for private sectors to do some things that the private sectors will alleviate problems for the private sectors. Private sectors cannot even put money into sports because most of them end up using money in buying generators and buying fuel and all those things. If these things are working, the primary responsibility of government, if it's running, George, I think so much attention will be paid to sports.
Okay, beyond that, Tony, let's look at the personnel. Lobby have just gotten ticket. Rangers have gotten ticket. The next thing now, you'll see Lobby changing its coach. Rangers will change its coach. Bengo Gumbote has just won it for Rangers. They will change, bring in, recruit new players. Those the quote and unquote continental experience. They will go for play. By the time they will change the chemistry of the team, that is where the problem starts.
Yeah, George, that's the talking about technical, the coaching problems and other things. It's not necessary. In all these things, in all the bigger clubs that we see, you do not begin to dispense with all the players that you have. Just like you rightly mentioned about the chemistry. For people that have bonded so well, all you need to just look at the certain areas in the attack, midfield, and defense. for you to get 2, 3, 4 players. It's not for you, just to wipe out the whole players or bring in a coach. That sometimes, we end up, playing the spoiler role in our team, not knowing that we're the ones responsible for it.
Okay. What are the chances of Lobby and Rangers doing well next season, Tony?
George, we're just...
Or what must they do now to get it right? Because it's embarrassing, Tony. You win at home, by the time you go into the continent. This year, for instance, we have even forgotten that Plateau United ever represented Nigeria. We've forgotten that MFM, the people from the soccer temple, ever represented Nigeria. It was only Nimba that went as far as the semi-final. And at the end of the day, Nigeria's representation has been dropped from 2 in each of these competitions to just 1 each.
And if care is not taken, we'll still be going down. It's not just for you to get a ticket, to play in the continent. Do you have, like I already said, the arsenal? Do you have what it takes? The preparation? Are you looking at the flights? Are you thinking about the connections and all those? The Nigerian Football Federation, what is their own role in helping, in assisting, these clubs that are going to fly, Nigeria's banner in the continent? It goes beyond winning. You must put everything into place, and that's why you see that's why Enyimba, were successful, or remains the only club to have won back-to-back, the the CAF Champions, because there was that preparation, there was money. We cannot just divorce funds, because if you have funds, you can really plan well. Like the players coming back from Morocco and then going by road. If it's a good club, no club will want to suffer players to go through that hazardous route of flying and then coming to go by road for about 7-8 hours.
And unfortunately, that was the first thing that even led to Enyimba's fall. Before the first leg against Raja, they traveled all the way from Gombe to Aba. They spent 2 days on the road and played Raja the next day. Very unfortunate. I just hope that government will do something about these clubs. If you are not ready to fund it, allow the private sector take it over. And Pinnick mentioned this when he met the governor of Bayelsa State, Seraki Desi. He said they want a situation where Nigerian clubs would be out of government control, so that at the end of the day, government will have only 20% equity in the shares.
Yeah, I don't see that coming to a reality in the nearest
Why?
future.
We've been talking about
because
this.
Even the government, they use football clubs, when it comes to election, they use it as a tool. How can you explain to me, George, for example, I am from Delta State, and we have 6 state-owned clubs, 6. From Delta Queens to Warri Wolves, Delta Force, Isoko United, Ika Rangers, and how many of them are being paid?
So it's all about politics, gentlemen.
Indeed, George, it's all about politics. But I think if you look at it in Abia State, for instance, Abia Warriors, doing well,
Abia Comets,
Abia Comets. And when you think about handball, we're just looking at football. Some of these state governments and others, they don't know that they can also invest into other sports.
Other sports are dying at the detriment of football.
Yes, I will just mention handball. If you remember that handball was meant
No, Imo was the home of grasshoppers. There's nothing like grasshoppers in Imo State any longer.
It's a pity. Some of these bigger clubs, most clubs in Europe, they have football clubs, they have handball, they have hockey.
They are athletics clubs.
They have athletics clubs. There's only in Nigeria that will just say football, and it's a one-way thing.
Very unfortunate. We just hope that we'll get it right in our sports, because the way it is now is a shame that Nigeria's tickets have been dropped from 2 in the CAF Champions League and CAF Confederation to just 1. And at the end of the day, if not for the fact that every country should present a team, Nigeria will jolly well join countries that won't present a team in the club continent.
We'll join the clapperbots.
Very, very sad. Lobby Rangers, we are hoping that you will get it right this season. Let's take another break now. It's Sportsville. I hope you are enjoying it. We'll be back after this break. All right, welcome back. We're hosting Hope now. Let's quickly give you upcoming events. Let's start from October 29 to November 4, where the Paris Masters tennis will be taking place in France. And then November 2nd, CAF Champions League final, first leg, Al Ali versus Esperance of Tunisia. Al Ali of Egypt and Esperance of Tunisia. You see, it is all North African affairs where football is really big business. And then November 3, you have the Higher Institutions Football League final in Lagos. And November 5 to 10, the Legacy Volleyball Championship will be coming up in Lagos. November 8, the NOC Investor in Abuja. We mentioned that to you earlier. The first one took place at the Legacy's Palace here in Lagos. November 8, it will be the turn of the investiture in Abuja. I hope you follow all those upcoming events. Yeah, before we go, let's tell you that there will be a Clasico tonight and talk about Real Madrid taking on Barcelona. And for the first time in a decade, you will be having the two talismans. Talk about Ronaldo and Messi. Ronaldo has moved to Juventus, the old ladies, and Messi is down with an arm injury. That's the show. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye and God bless.